All right, so good morning, everyone. I bring you a tutorial today on how to plot radical functions. So many people have challenges on how to plot questions that are under functions which have radicals, but then I've come to make them simple for you. All right. So to those of you that have not yet subscribed, you are new to this channel, make sure that you do subscribe and you'll be able to receive almost uh, 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 in, notifications almost on every video that I will be able to make on this channel. Now, um, when you are dealing with radicals, there are some of the important concepts that you are supposed to know. And I think I've outlined them down here. And we are going to go through each of these concepts so that you'll be able to uh, find them easy in terms of plotting. So make sure that you know by heart how to do these four things. Okay, so now we start with the first one, solution. So for A, they are saying that if you have been given some function y equal to the radical x, then how do you plot this one? All right, so if we are to get a rule, we want to plot this one. How is the graph of this radical going to come out? So if we have 0 here, then we have the first quadrant, we have the second quadrant, third, and then we have fourth, like this. So now, the way this one is going to come out, since the radical is positive and the x inside is positive, then we expect this guy to simply move in the positive direction in both the y and the x. Therefore, you expect this graph to simply move in this direction. Okay, then the domain for this one is simply going to come from it's going to come from 0 because 0 is part of the x values, then going to positive infinity. The range is also going to come from 0 going to positive infinity, like this. We get to b. B is saying y is equal to the root. Now the radical is negative, like this. Then how do we plot this one? How do we plot this one? How do we plot this one? Okay, so the same concept applies. We are going to draw a line of this kind, like this. Okay, then you put 0 here. Now, since the radical is negative, but the x inside is positive, so the radical is representing some y, then the x is going to represent some, just the x, okay, like that. Now, so which quadrant is going to represent y being negative and x being positive? So y being negative, automatically we know that y being negative is in this direction, but x being positive, it's in this direction, okay? So x being positive, this direction, y being negative, this direction. Then automatically, we are going to have something like this. Okay, so it's going to be in the fourth quadrant, like this. Then we find the domain. The domain, since we know that it's coming from 0 to some point in the x-axis to some point positive infinity, so it will still be 0 to some point positive infinity. But then for the range, that is the value in the y-axis, automatically we know that it's coming from it's coming from negative infinity up to some point 0. So we put these brackets up to some point 0 because we're coming from down there in the y going to 0. Okay, let's get to we have C. What's this? We have A, B, of A, B, C. So this one's supposed to be C, then D. Let's get to C. Now C is simply saying y is equal to the radical negative x. How do we plot this one? The same concept applies. Same concept applies. Okay, same concept applies. All right, the same concept applies. So we put a 0 here. Now we ask ourselves which quadrant is going to hold, where y is going to be positive and x is going to be negative. So automatically y positive is this one, x negative is this one. So we're just moving in this direction like this. So second quadrant. The domain for this one, the domain for this one is going to come, since we're coming from uh, 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 0 to some positive, from 0 to some negative infinity in the x, because we're moving in the negative side in the x direction. So therefore it's going to come from negative infinity up to some point 0 like this. Then the range, since in the range we are moving from 0 up to some point positive infinity because it's going upward, so it's going to come from 0 going to some positive infinity like this. Okay, for the last one, which happens to be d is going to be y equal to negative the root of this. So for this one, it's also very simple, because the only thing that you are supposed to do, okay, let me draw this. So we have 0 here. So where is it negative? Both the radical and x is a negative. So where is it going to be? So it's going to be where y must be negative. Down here, x must be negative. So automatically, you know that it's going like this direction. Okay, it's going in this direction. And then the domain, since we're coming from 0 to the negative side, so it's going to come out from negative infinity to some point 0. The range, since we are coming from negative, so it's just the same, like this. All right, so this is just how you do these ones, and you are supposed to know how to do these questions. Make sure that you know how to do these ones. These diagrams are going to help us now solve most of the questions under radicals that seem to be a little bit difficult. All right, so let's get to questions. So we do have some simple practice questions, and we are going to do each one of them together and see if it's going to be very easy, but I guess it's going to be easy, of course. All right, so we start with the first question. The first question is simply saying, sketch the graphs of each of the following functions involving radicals on the same coordinate system as that of f of x equal to the radical x, find domain and range. All right, now for the first one, they are saying the function of f of x equal to the root of 3 minus x. Okay, so now how do we do this one? So this is very simple. The first thing to do, you are supposed first of all to find what is inside. So we have 3 minus x, we equate this to 0. Then negative x is going to equal negative 3. Okay, then we put negative 1, negative 1. Therefore, we are going to have a positive 3. Now, this is just the same as y is equal to the root of 3 minus x plus some 0. Okay? Now, this is simply y. The whole of this is simply x. Therefore, we are at some point where we have this coordinate of x to be this and the coordinate of y to be 0. So we can plot this on the graph and simply see where the thing is going to. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is to locate this point. So this point is simply here, like this. Now, remember what we're doing in the first place. Our our radical is positive, but our x is negative. So radical positive, x negative. So automatically we know that starting from this point here, we are now going to the negative in the x, but positive in the y. So automatically we know that this thing is going to move in this direction. Then for the domain, since we are moving from the point where x is positive 3, so, and then we are also moving to the point where in the x-axis where we find negative infinity. Therefore, we will say that the domain is simply coming from negative infinity in the x, reaching to some point where we are going to have a 3 like this. That's the domain. Then for the range, remember the range is simply OI values. So it's simply coming from some point where we have 0 to the point where we have positive infinity. Like this. So this is how we do the first one. Let's come to the second question. Now to the second question, which happens to be B, they are saying that the function of f of x is equal to the radical x minus 3. All right, so for this one is just the same as the radical y is equal to the radical x plus some 0 inside, then minus 3, like this, right? Okay, now this part, we say that this part simply represents the x, this one the y, right? Therefore, we can say x plus 0 equal to 0. Therefore, x is just 0. And then our y, we know automatically is negative 3, like this. Therefore, we are at some point 0, negative 3. If we plot this one, we need to locate the point. So to locate the point, we're going to put 0 here, the negative 3 here. So the point is simply here. That's the point. Now we ask ourselves, the radical is positive. So meaning this one automatically we are moving in this direction because the radical is positive. Sure, you remember those rules that we learned in the first place. Now, what is the domain? The domain is simply all x values. So we are simply moving in the x-axis. We are moving from 0, but we are moving to positive infinity. So automatically we know this is the domain. For the range, we are moving from this point. So it's simply coming from the point negative 3, because this is the negative 3 in the y, to some point positive infinity. Okay, so this is how you do this easy question. Now let me do another question, which happens to be C. All right, let me just underline so you are able to learn what I will be doing nicely. These are very simple things, very simple, very simple. All right, so these are very simple things, very, very simple, very, very simple. All right, what is the question saying? The question is simply saying, okay, we are on C, the question is simply saying f of x equal to the radical negative 2x plus 1. All right, so for this one, the same concept applies. So the same concept applies. This is just the same as y equal to the radical negative 2x plus 0 plus 1. This part x, this part y. So negative 2x plus 0 equal to this. So automatically we have negative 2x equal to some 0, negative 2, negative 2. We get 0. Then in the y, we have 1. So we are at some point 0, 1. We can plot that one. How do we plot this one? All right, so it's going to be like this. Don't even have to draw a very big diagram. All right, so we have a 0 here, like this. Then we have a 1 here. So now look at the radical. The radical is positive, but the x inside is negative. Okay, so we are at some point where the radical is positive, so we're going upward. So automatically we know that we are moving in this direction, like this. Simple. The domain is simply values in the x, so the domain is simply coming from, since we're moving in the negative, we are moving from, it's going to the negative side. So we start from, use these brackets from the negative side like this, to some point where we're going to have a 0 included. You put those brackets. For the range, we're moving from, since it's in the positive, so it's going to be some point 1 included to positive infinity for this one. Now, between these two, which one should I solve? Which one should I solve? Which one should I solve? I'm going to solve D so that this one becomes a work. D seems to be hard to some people, but then okay, let's solve it. We have the function of f of x equal to 2 minus 4. Oh my God, how do you solve this question? What method should we use? All right, it's very simple. It's very simple. It's very simple. So what we're going to do there, this is just the same as f of x is equal to the negative, the radical x, negative x minus 4, right? Like this, right? But then do you notice that this is positive 2? So this is just positive 2, right? We can work out what is in here because we know that this part is x, we know that this part is y. So we have negative x minus 4 equal to 0, negative x equal to positive 4 over negative 1 over negative 1. So x is goes to 4. But then we have 2 here, so we're at some point where we have 4 comma 2. Okay, so negative 1, negative 1. So this is negative 4. Okay, so negative 4. All right. Okay, so then what do we do? We can plot this one. We can plot this one like this. Where we just do the same thing, same concept. So this one becomes your 0. Where's negative 4? Negative 4 in the x is simply this one. We say negative 4 here. Positive 2, positive 2 is simply this one. Then, where are we? We are coming like this, and this is our point. Like this. Now notice that the radical and the x are negative. So where exactly are we going to find negative y, negative x, negative y? So automatically we know that it's going to move in this direction because this is negative at the same time this is negative. So it will move from like this. Like this. Okay. Then how do we find the domain? The domain is simply all values in the x. So in the x we have, so it's simply coming from the point where we have, since it's negative, so negative infinity to some point where we are going to have a positive 4. The range, for the range, is going to come from the point where we have negative infinity to some point where we are going to have a 2 included. Well, this is just how simple these things are. So this is just how simple these questions are. Very simple. So I'm sure you are able to see how we've solved all the questions. I'm sure you're able to see how we've solved all the questions. So make sure that you solve this one as the work. I don't know, but you can do this one. Very, very easy. You are able to send that question. You can send that question on my WhatsApp line and I'll be able to respond if I do have some time for you. Of course, this is my WhatsApp line, my details. You can send your solution on this line and I'll be able to respond to you. Those of you that have not yet subscribed, make sure that you do subscribe and you will be able to receive notifications of almost every video that I will be able to do. Thank you so much.